Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the LCK Worlds Gauntlet. I'm Valdez. With me is Larry Seinfeld. Good to have him here on the desk. We're going to be jumping into another best of 5. It will be KingZone making a little bit of a run against some people's expectations up against SANDBOX, who were able to watch the games on Tuesday and prepare. We're just getting ready to sit back and cast some League of Legends. How you doing today, Ellis?
I'm feeling really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to win today and move on to the finals, because I'm really excited to know who is going to be Korea's third representative at the World Cup in about a month.
Yeah, it's coming fast, faster than we expected. We already got done with the LCK Summer Finals. This is going to be my first cast since then. I think same for you, actually.
Yeah, same for me.
Coming back from that, back to Lal Park, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think a lot of people are expecting Damwon to be the kind of final boss, and they are actually waiting in that final boss seat on Saturday for the final match of whoever does win today between KingZone and SANDBOX. KingZone unexpectedly made it through 3-1 up against FLICKR. FLICKR kind of falling apart from what I could tell from that series, but KingZone looking better than expected. So before that match, I was thinking maybe SANDBOX 3-0 over whoever did win, but now I feel like it could be either of these teams winning.
Yeah, and I definitely think that this is going to be a match of polar opposites in the sense that the bottom lane versus the top lane, I think, are going to be the pretty defining characteristics of this matchup here today. I think no one was really expecting KingZone to beat FLICKR, especially not with all the public information that has come out. You've been keeping up on Reddit or Twitter, but KingZone, they came out strong. They won 3-1. Now, how well will SANDBOX do after a pretty big hiatus?
Yeah, it's a hiatus, and the last time they came out here in the public and played a game, they got shellacked. They got demolished. They got shown by SKT what it means to play in an LCK playoff, and SANDBOX definitely had their eyes opened, I suppose, after that last game, because it's hard to use any other verbs to describe how hard they lost and how mental boom they were up against SKT. Now, it's a bit of an easier opponent objectively here in KingZone, but still not going to be an easy one overall. As that point I was making, the second one there, they couldn't stay focused on the big stage. Have they overcome this coming into today's match, I think, is definitely going to be one of the key points that we will have to inspect as the night goes on.
Yeah, I definitely think whoever wins game one is going to have a pretty big mental swing advantage.
Absolutely.
Whereas if SANDBOX drops game one, they could just get shattered from it, and it could just probably spell disaster for the remaining games of the night. But KingZone, they're not necessarily going to falter if they fall behind, but it will give SANDBOX the momentum that they probably need to carry on throughout the remainder of the series. Another interesting thing will be seeing what type of drafts they prepared given the long hiatus and some of the mix-ups that we've seen in the meta in recent weeks. It'll be something that we'll have to pay attention to, because I feel like games between these two teams, drafts are super, super important. I've been very vocal about this all throughout Season 9, that teams of similar skill level, or if they have flip sides in terms of matchups, whether it be top versus bot weakness or something to that degree, drafts become increasingly more important, especially here in the LCK. As we're taking a look now at some of the team stats, first Dragon percent, KingZone does have the edge right there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that both KingZone and SANDBOX are first and second. These are two teams that definitely do highlight the early objectives in the game of League of Legends, but notice how much bigger the win rate is for SANDBOX with first Dragon. You'll notice also that KingZone has had a 100% win rate over 4 games. I suppose that's the 3 games they won. They must have got first Dragon. Also the most Rift Heralds out of any other team, as We're talking about key players here. We talked about how it's really between the top and the bottom lanes, but we're actually looking into the mid lane here. Dove up against Naehyun. As I feel like they're both very stable mid laners that are not necessarily going to rule the game by themselves.
And I'm curious if this is the key player matchup primarily because it doesn't delve into the top mismatch or the bot mismatch that does occur inside of this game, although I guess you could have just selected the jungler for that. But I think the point that you're bringing up in terms of stability is important because that really is both of these mid laners' roles inside of the team. So we'll see what that ends up meaning as the games do kick off. And we do know that SANDBOX will be on the blue side starting. So we'll have to see if they are going to try to aim for some power picks, maybe for Summit or something early on, or how they're going to try to approach this. But Kingzone getting counter pick, I don't think it's as favorable for them as it could be for some other teams, primarily just because, as I mentioned, it really is about that bot lane for Kingzone. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, everybody's going to be looking towards Deft and TusiN to carry if you are on the side of Kingzone. But that first pick potential on the blue side you were mentioning, note that SANDBOX had the higher seed here in the gauntlet, so they did get to choose blue side, and I think it is exactly for that first great pick you were talking about. Jace and Aatrox, two of the big ones that Summit has played quite a lot here in the LCK. It's going to be going up against Rascal up in the top lane from the side of Kingzone.
As they walk out here onto the stage, I feel like a lot of people are probably now considering them the favorites coming into the match. But both of these teams, they're going to have to show a lot here in the series tonight to be considered a favorite against Damwon in the finals, who, as you already alluded to, really is the final boss.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Damwon's kind of sitting back and saying, well, we could probably beat either of these guys. Remember that Damwon themselves had a bit of a mental boom up against SKT in the playoffs leading up to the summer finals, so we'll have to wait and see how their mental is holding up. Right now in Korea, it's a weird state where I feel like all of these teams are quite good. You know, SKT, Griffin, obviously very good teams, but you know, the other three teams we have left here, Damwon, Kingzone, and SANDBOX, have all had some issues with their mental state, with stuff off the Rift, yada, 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 but they're all just great mechanically skilled teams overall, and it's really just about growing up here in the LCK, it feels like, for some of these younger teams, and seeing which one of them is going to be the most stable and available to make it into the Worlds.
Yeah. We'll have to see what is going to happen once the draft ends up commencing. It does look like SANDBOX is in high spirits, or at least Joker is, as Kingzone seems to be as well. This is going to be a best of 5.
Yeah.
So the mental fortitude test, it's gonna be important.
Well, we've seen that Kingzone has better results so far in best of 5s than SANDBOX does. Of course, that is not a very large stat that we have to draw from. SANDBOX has played one here, and yeah, if you do remember, they were in the wildcard match against Damwon in spring, so it doesn't necessarily count, whereas they got demolished by SKT before. Whereas Kingzone, I believe they took that first loss against FLICKR, and then they said, the hell with it. They threw caution to the wind and were able to come back with 3 wins in a row. So good to see from Kingzone to have that mental fortitude. And let's see how they do as we are going to hop on to the ban and pick here with me and LS. Let's jump into it with SANDBOX on the blue side.
Yuumi is going to be banned in the window. Zakali's banned in the door.
What?
What? All right, Gragas now going to be the follow-up for SANDBOX.
Like that ban.
Aatrox now being banned by Kingzone. Pretty nice to ban that away from Summit. It is one of the blind picks that are favorable. Jace is still open right now. It is patch 9.16, but Summit is one of the Jace players that can actually truly pilot the champion in a way that would make him worthwhile to have on your team composition. But Sylas is going to be the first hover.
This is a very fast pick ban so far. Generally, you see them use all of the timer, but these teams came in with a plan. That is obvious for today, for what they did not want to see from the enemy team.
Kingzone deliberating, it seems, on what their ADC might be, as Ezreal is being hovered. And Sylas does make it a little bit awkward to pick right away. I am a pretty big fan of ADC selection into flexible champion picks like that, as they could just round this out with the support and just be done with it, hand over control back over to SANDBOX, get a better idea, reserve the counter picks for your mid and top lane. That's the whole point of Red side, at least in this meta. I love the Karma selection. She's able to be tri-flexed, makes it very difficult for SANDBOX now to evaluate that situation and respond accordingly, unless they're just going to go Zyra Khan.
Zyra Khan does feel pretty possible here, I'd say. The Draven ban also coming out here targeting Ghost. They're thinking about mixing it up, though. We see the Varus, maybe a Varus Braum could be considered, but they are going to switch it back to the Xayah. And there it is.
Zyra Khan locked in now. Kingzone probably could just choose jungle, and that would be fine. But instead, they're actually going to show that Karma will be either mid or top. And Karma going top lane maybe wouldn't be that way, wouldn't be that bad, as it would truly be a way to sort of neutralize Summit and the advantage that he can bring SANDBOX. And that would be really a great way to slow him down, as it's pretty hard to overcome Karma in the top lane. As Xin Zhao now will bite the dust.
Off the table, so they're giving, certainly, they're waving their hand at the Sylas jungle and saying, we don't believe you just yet. That Sylas also a fantastic flex pick in his own right. And OnFleek, known for his jungle Xin Zhao, so gonna take that away. And we're targeting all the jungles here, as Rek'Sai also gonna be taken off the table.
The Rek'Sai is a really interesting ban here, as there's not really a clear identifying theme where Rek'Sai would come in right now, and even though she is capable of being picked, she's not super popular unless SANDBOX is trying to think of picking a Jarvan. And so now Lee Sin being banned away.
Yeah. The Lee Sin was another one that OnFleek loves to play, that the Rek'Sai can deal with pretty well. So maybe that is why they wanted to target that ban away.
I'm wondering if Kingzone is looking for a Karthus. Well, there's the Jarvan ban too. This is just very, very bizarre. Banning the champions that Kingzone did would only make sense if they were looking for a Karthus, but we'll have to see what is going to be their choice. Maybe it's going to be something as awful as Olaf.
Well, I mean, with the Karma, it could make sense, but instead... Okay, no, okay. Little bit of a debate. I like that, Kingzone.
Never lucky.
Something as awful as the Olaf does come out, as you were mentioning, LS. It's a comp that Korean teams have struggled with here, to say the least, in summer. Olaf was down at like a 20% win rate, but Karma Olaf can make stuff happen, so we'll see if Kingzone is up to the task of actually piloting that kind of composition. 1-2 item spike can be very powerful with a nice early mid-game, but see if they can actually get there, as Kha'Zix, a kind of controversial pick into the jungle, one we don't see too often here, going to be piloted by OnFleek.
Well, Kha'Zix is really bizarre. and it's being accompanied by a Jace, which is the champion I talked about earlier on that Summit can play. So here's the problem with this team composition. It's all AD. It has very mismatched timings amongst it in terms of when these champions come online. The other problem is Ezreal now gets to go Ninja Tab Eye, Iceborne Gauntlet, and he gets to laugh at all of your physical damage, which shuts down your mid-game power spike. It really just mitigates and helps control it. You're also running into Karma Shields and a Tahm Kench W, and it just doesn't really feel all that good. It is so aggressive, needlessly, but Kingzone, they're going to try to fight fire with fire as LeBlanc now is locked in, which is a really, really surprising pick. But it is being used to help shut down the Sylas. He doesn't get that much benefit from stealing her ultimate. Another champion pick that wouldn't necessarily be so bad in a spot like this is actually Zoe, even though she hasn't been picked all that much lately.
Yeah, she kind of fell off the face of the earth. We don't really get to see good old Zoe anymore, but will be Sylas into the mid lane there, so they will at least have a bit of AP to go along with that massive amount of stacking AD you were talking about. Very curious, though, more than anything, to see if Kingzone can actually pilot this kind of Karma Ezreal Olaf composition and have Naehyun actually come in on a carry like LeBlanc and do well just like he did on Tuesday against Afrika.
So take a look at the team compositions one last time. Xayah, Rakan, Sylas, Kha'Zix, and Jace up there in the top lane. This is a team composition that has late game scaling components inside of it, but it really wants to wake up in mid-game. The problem is the champions are misaligned for that, so they're going to need to accelerate the Sylas of all champions, who's the only magic damage in their comp, but normally is just going to be used for utility. And on the flip side, I mean, it doesn't get much more aggressive than that on top and mid side, with the Ezreal going to be a defensive pick that'll be able to avoid most danger.
That's a kind of a fun comp here from the side of Kingzone, but let's see how it does do into game number 1 of SANDBOX versus Kingzone. Let's hop onto the Rift right now. I feel like the SANDBOX, hold that thought, as the grand exit is going to be taken here by Joker to get out of harm's way. But I feel like the SANDBOX fans still need some practice getting their chant together, whereas the Kingzone fans have, they've been doing this for a while. They know what they're doing, as the invade with this composition makes sense. They come in here, get some deep wards down, but at the same time, SANDBOX do themselves. And the highlight there was onto OnFleek, which is the Kha'Zix jungle. We used to see it a bunch in, you know, years past, 2017, 18, but I feel like 2019 was not the year of Kha'Zix. It feels like whenever the team with Kha'Zix wins, it's not necessarily because of the Kha'Zix.
Yeah.
He's kind of just like a passenger on the bus, you know?
Yeah, we've seen it multiple times. I mean, the most... the best examples of it is actually Griffin.
Yeah.
When he's been picked up and he's done virtually nothing, and he's just been there sort of to add a presence in the game, but it's mostly a 4v5 victory with just a bug running around. As, speaking of bugs running around, invade now on to the red. In the early game, it's interesting because the Sylas wants to be accelerated. He wants to basically hold everything together from the center of the map and then make sure that Kingzone don't get away with just having massive amounts of armor in the mid game. But the problem is, depending on how Dove chooses to itemize, the fact that he has teleport, he has the aftershock, Sylas does not take on the role of a glass cannon AP carry. He doesn't offer as much insane damage as something like an Akali or an Azir or something of that nature. And so, if he doesn't get ahead, sure, he's dealing magic damage, but Kha'Zix, Jace, and Xayah, they're going to be negated by the way that Kingzone can itemize.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I feel like after the draft, Kingzone kind of have this one in their pockets, but looking to get aggressive early here is OnFleek, getting that isolated damage already onto Rascal, but he's just going to tether OnFleek and say, well, I'll do just as much damage back to you. Go back home. And the Karma, safer than ever, not even having to flash.
Captain, careful. You just can't really, you can't really get an advantage against it. It is so difficult to overcome her with all her sustain from her W, as well as her shields, the way that she can itemize. It's so obnoxious, and that's why I was mentioning in the draft phase, the Rascal on the Karma, it doesn't matter that you have one of the best tops in LCK. We're in Season 9.
Yeah.
And I guess they haven't learned that it's all about better bot wins.
And, yeah, it absolutely does feel that way. I mean, not Rascal, Summit is just going to be frustrated to all hell up there in the top lane. Anyone who's played against the Karma in any lane, really, will know the feeling of playing against her in Season 9. The fact that she didn't even have to flash is, like, still unbelievable. The way the lane states were, I feel like almost every other champion in the game would have at least had to flash there. But Karma just laughs at the enemy duo, gets away just fine. As we're seeing, Naehyun's doing pretty well here in the mid lane. He had a couple of pop-off performances on the LeBlanc the other day on Tuesday, which is not necessarily Naehyun's, his prerogative. He's not necessarily the guy that's kind of taken the game into his own hands and carrying the team, but was able to do pretty well on the other couple of days.
And so far, here in this game, the Kleptomancy on the LeBlanc, I mean, he's doing just fine inside of the laning phase, although it is teleport versus teleport, so we have a very exciting laning phase on our hands.
Oh, yeah.
Olaf doing what he does best. He's going to run around, and he'll give false pressure, because he clears really fast.
And, okay, we got Ignite coming down here, but guess what? It's Tom Kent. Can they get on top of Kent is the question. We got TP coming in here, but doesn't feel like anyone can catch up to Kingzone, as everybody's going to get away, and not even a single flash was blown in the entire play.
And now what I'm assuming that they're thinking about this is, okay, we'll call in Summit's teleport. If we end up killing one of them, we can convert this into an Infernal Dragon. And then Summit stays bot lane, we teleport goes top lane, and then they just initiate a role swap because there's no dragon on the map anymore. But instead, we get...
we got what we just saw.
We got a little bit of a fiesta in the end, so...
Yeah.
Here we are now in live, but this is actually catastrophic for SANDBOX. And the reason that it is because you committed Jace's teleport, you made him actually fall behind the Karma up there in top lane. And it all is just going to feel really bad. It also looks like Cuzz is actually going to sneak a dragon.
I mean, this Olaf, you talked about that false pressure. He's been taking so much, though, and now he's going to be taking a Drake as the smite comes down. Joker not able to get there on time, and Kingzone are laughing their way to the bank right now in terms of stats and map pressure and everything. They're absolutely dominating this early game.
Yeah, they're taking over completely, and look at the itemization right now. Rascal, Ninja Tab Eye, first item with another Doran's Ring to complement it. Jace, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
And now mid lane, LeBlanc, she already has her Lost Chapter. Wait until Deft recalls. He's probably looking for the 1800 gold recall. There's a few different recalls Ezreal has. One of them is the Sheen. The other is the 1800, which is what we just saw.
Yeah.
Lets you get the Sheen and the tier. And so now, Summit, he's going to try his best, but top's pretty dead. Ezreal will most certainly pick up the Iceborne Gauntlet, the Ninja Tab Eye, and with 2 Infernal Dragons going to likely be going the way of Kingzone with all the defensive stats they get, it's pretty dark. It's looking a lot like Outside looks right now as we're getting hit by Typhoon Ling Ling. That's actually the name of it. I looked it up.
Oh, wow. That's a fun one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yesterday I was coming back from Hongdae.
Yeah.
And the sky was just separated. Pitch black and then bright.
Oh, yeah.
And it was... I've never seen something like it before in my life.
Well, let's see if we can see this as Ghost not going to use that Featherstorm, holds it to the last moment, but flashing in. Olaf says that was easy. Thanks, bro. As looking for that last
Nice.
Q, Ezreal is going to snipe him down. And that'll be the 2 for 0 down in the bottom lane. The easiest gank you've ever seen, as there's no teleports anymore because they used them on that weird gank we saw earlier. And the bottom lane is now done.
And the really weird thing about this is that OnFleek is inside of the red side jungle of Cuzz. You know indirectly where the enemy jungler must be. You know how you should have been playing your laning phase because of where your jungler was. And now everything's just sort of falling apart.
What is going on?
Well, Dub's trying to bait this.
Okay, well, he is going to be baiting it pretty well, actually. Baiting me even as Naehyun is in a world of hurt. It is going to be going down here. He got baited real hard, as Dove did pretty well. Now, finally, SANDBOX going to get 1 win on the map.
And it came in actually the most important place, which was the Sylas.
Yeah.
As Cuzz now is going to make his way down into mid lane. Really surprised they didn't stick around to get a turret play, given Naehyun doesn't have teleport and you're already demanding the presence of Cuzz. But now coming back down into bottom, Joker and Ghost, they're not doing so hot down here. 1,000 gold difference between the two ADCs. Deft is rolling pretty well on Kleptomancy. And just take a look at this. This is such a standard gank right here. You have Sylas inside the red jungle. He knows that Raptors haven't been taken at all. And you know that your jungler is proceeding into the red. There's no reason for that to happen the way that it did. Dove, though, with an excellent bait. It really did look like he blundered. And Naehyun probably just thinking, there's no way that your jungler's actually here. Because of the way that Dove actually played this out,
yeah,
it did look pretty realistic as a blunder of mechanics.
It even fooled me, right? I wasn't looking at the minimap. I'm like, oh boy, is this just going to be a solo kill? But absolutely not. It ended up just being the 2-on-1. The sneaky play there from Dove.
The real question now, Valdez, is was it intentional? Or was it?
Yeah. You know, with the way the game's going so far for SANDBOX, we'll say it was intentional. We'll give this one to them because not much else has been looking too intentional. Maybe intentional if you want to go that way. Yeah.
I am a...
You're a fan?
I am a fan.
Cuzz is back in the enemy red jungle. At least they know this time. Naehyun should never really be in danger. He now knows he's behind in the lane, can play it a bit safer compared to the way he was playing it before. But Dove is going to get a lot of wave control and lane control from this, as you guys can see. We'll be able to push into LeBlanc, and they can gain strength through there.
Dove's also up about half a level. And now because of this trade in mid, Naehyun missing a lot of his HP. This Infernal Dragon's no joke. Actually really surprised that Summit's not just running down to the Infernal Dragon and then teleporting back up to top.
Oh, here we go again. Two-shot barrage is going to hit both of them, and, well, we're getting our third plate now for the bottom lane. Deft is super rich. He's already got his Naehyun, he's stacking it up, and just getting super far ahead down in the bottom side. So they have all this strength in the bottom lane, even if they're lacking it in the mid lane. I feel like because of that, King Zone might just be able to secure their second Infernal Drake of the game.
Well, lots of plates going down here, as there's not much Ghost and Joker can do. And meanwhile, up in top lane, very exciting right there.
Yeah. We checked it for about a millisecond before the observer was like, wait, we don't need to watch the top lane. All 5 plates go down at 12 minutes into the game. And Deft is not done yet. He's still chasing them down the lane. Just winning it by himself after SANDBOX made that blunder earlier. Just took over the lane, and that means that 2 Infernals into, what's the next one going to be? It will be a Cloud Drake.
980 for Deft, so he almost picks himself up a longsword off that. And he already had the other one, so double Infernal coming in real handy right now. As, okay, they're going to summon Shelly up here in top lane. They're finally going to get some plates, but it looks like they're going to share it, which is a pretty bad decision, and the reason that it's a bad decision is both of these champions are already going to be stunted, and also we're seeing Summit go for the lethality build rather than the Black Cleaver, despite there's so much physical damage on their side. As you can see, Olaf, he's probably going to get Ninja Tab Eyes soon. Iceborne Gauntlet already there for Deft.
Yep.
This mid-game is just going to be a nightmare, and I can't imagine a world where SANDBOX actually wins a team fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Kingzone fan, just wait for that first team fight so you can kind of laugh your head off at the way it's going to go. At least based on the items, as long as Kingzone doesn't make any mistakes, this mid-game is in their hands, as you have been mentioning. And at least we haven't had a third Infernal Drake come out just yet. It did move over to the cloud for now. It's very cloudy in Seoul, as you were mentioning. It's the monsoon coming on over. Finally was delayed a bit, but we've had rain for the past 3 days or so. So I was expecting a lot of ocean drakes, cloud drakes, fun stuff like that, but we started off with 2 Infernals, and I feel like that's because Deft is so angry right now. He really wants to make it to Worlds. He wasn't happy with the way that the regular season went for Kingzone in 2019, and honestly, it looks like he's just trying to take it into his own hands and bring them to Worlds by himself.
Yeah, he really does. As 1-0-1 is his current scoreline in this game, but his Ezreal performance is always something to look forward to, especially as the game draws on. And top lane likely to fall here in coming moments, even though Joker and Ghost are going to be trying to defend it. They're moving up Naehyun. They have 4 members here right now, so if the Rakan and Xayah even thought to try to defend, she would just end up dying. And right now, they're going to SANDBOX on the flip side, OnFleek and Summit, getting this bottom tier 1, or at least attempting to. They're constantly sharing gold. They're constantly sharing XP. Rascal has a level advantage over Summit, who's just pinged level 11.
Keep in mind that Karma also has some pretty nice wave clear, so they're not going to take it very quickly either, as already the tier 2 is being chipped down here, and Deft is attacking them under turret with the Tom Kent. So while SANDBOX are trying to use all of their available resources to rotate to get 1 turret, Kingzone are getting 2.
And this is just a nightmare situation, as...
How about 3?
How about 3 is what Kingzone really is saying, as now they're going to get some nice chip damage onto the mid-tier 1 turret. As the recalls are coming in, see the Ninja Tab Eye now for the Ezreal. Shortly after probably pushing out this mid-wave, LeBlanc picks up a needlessly large rod, 2 control wards. Deft must have so much stuff to recall.
Guy's sitting on fat stacks right now, whereas the Xayah, not so much.
This is one of those spots where I talk about the forbidden word, freezing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You feel me?
The F word?
Well, yeah, sure, because a minute Cloud Dragon's coming up. Do you really want to fight over that as SANDBOX? No, absolutely not. You're going to get blown out of the water. You're just going to lose the game. So, when Kingzone handed you a cannon minion wave, and you could have frozen it indefinitely, sure, you give up some pressure at your mid-tier 1,
or
your Sylas and friends can defend against it, but even if you do lose the mid-tier 1 eventually after a couple of waves, it's not a big deal. You're going to lose it anyway.
Yeah.
Having your Xayah present to preserve a couple hundred damage.
All right, trying to get on top of TusiN here, flashing on in. That was a really nice play, actually, by Joker to make it happen, but it just doesn't matter, as Kingzone are able to turn it around with their fat stacks. And OnFleek, as you guys can see, really not able to do much in the fight, and even has to hop away, nearly dying in the process. So SANDBOX had to extend pretty far down the lane just to kill the Tom Kent. In the end, just ended up being a 1-for-1 as we traded supports.
And that was a really close call. TusiN almost able to get off thick skin. They were able to chain the CC in a manner that he could not, as Cuzz now going to turn his attention to the Cloud Dragon. He's going to pick that up. Now the best role for Kingzone would be a Mountain Drake. but it looks like it's going to be another Cloud Dragon, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like that. We'll make the Olaf very fast. Everybody else doesn't really care about the Cloud Drake. I suppose denying it from the side of SANDBOX isn't so bad, but as you mentioned, really going to be a Drake that doesn't matter too much. Deft kind of tipping it down there in the mid lane by himself as TusiN, his loyal sidekick, to help him out. Already 660 gold taken here by the Ezreal with his Klepto. Ooh, that's a lot of damage. That's all I've got to say about that.
All right, almost 3,000 gold lead here for Kingzone. Baron not going to be on the menu as soon as it comes up, and now we're going to enter into a bit of a lull state here, Valdez, as Ezreal will continue to try to peck down the mid-tier 1 turret. But outside of SANDBOX getting really frisky and trying to force something, which they're probably feeling like they need to do, especially because of the way that Jace and Kha'Zix itemized. I have absolutely no idea why you don't have Black FLICKR on Jace. Or at least build it on Kha'Zix.
Yeah.
I can't really wrap my head around it. As we take a look at the replay, TusiN, he flashes out, but did not input the thick skin, so he ended up going down. Kingzone bit back a little bit. As we come back now into live.
It was mainly just a, oh, we got the CC onto Deft. Maybe we can get something out of this here. But you're very squishy, under-leveled Rakan, who basically has no stats. Had to go very deep to make the play happen, so with the chase potential that Kingzone have, they're able to easily tie it up. And the lull state is in effect. We've crossed state lines from early state to lull state, and we're just hanging out here on our little road trip, me and LS, and you guys in the chat. Thanks for joining us today. Having a fun time so far.
I feel like the lull state is one of those World of Warcraft missions that are needlessly difficult. You know, when the drop rate is just extremely low.
You didn't want to spend 3 hours in Westfall to spend all of your time on World of Warcraft for that night, but you know, that one, you know, the gourd tusk liver, it just wouldn't drop, so you just had to sit there and actually spend 3 hours killing boars. That was actually, you didn't know that's what you were getting into when you signed into World of Warcraft that day, but
sometimes you sign into League of Legends and you get that when the enemy team picks Sejuani 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You sign into League of Legends, you see the guy had Ghost and Cleanse from the game before, you're like, oh boy, here we go.
This is going to probably be a good one. You know, I have actually some pretty good ladder advice for anyone that's above, like, Diamond, right? If you hit Q, well, everyone in chat's Challenger. Well, get it together.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So,
forgot about that.
If you hit Q, when you queue up for solo queue, and it instantly pops, decline. Those people have been there for a while, and there is a reason. There is a Nunu in that lobby that is waiting for someone. Hit decline. It's one of the scariest things.
I never thought about that, but that actually makes sense.
They've been there for a while.
Also, the way the algorithm works is because they've been waiting for a long time, those guys, they're going to be given, like, support, you know. They're going to be given top lane when they're an AD carry main. Absolutely, actually. I will always take that advice from now on. I'm going to be waiting, like, 2-3 minutes for every game now.
Absolutely, you will. Never, ever accept an instant queue.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah. Any truers?
I'm a truer right now. You can see me. Look at my face. I'm a truer.
All right.
Yeah, lull state in full effect. We're kind of driving through. Have you ever done like a road trip? Oh no.
You know,
who am I kidding? You came to Korea when you were like 12 years old.
I'm well, I might go on one later this year.
Oh really?
Yeah, I want to actually Well, it depends on things. I don't know.
Okay. All right, that's good information. How about TusiN? Is he going to go down? The answer's no for now. TP coming in as Joker has to flash away from the True Shot Barrage just to get to safety as Naehyun, oh boy. He was looking real mean in that moment, but Featherstorm and the flash still available. Deft flashing forward, actually, a little bit too much, but it was actually a bait as he's going to get the kill in the end for his LeBlanc. And now Dove, the one guy who had a bounty on his head for the side of SANDBOX, is going to go down straight into the pockets of KingZone, who are now more than 4,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, KingZone are so big right now in this game. They have almost a 5,000 gold lead. Teleport coming back into mid. Summit might just die, actually.
Oh boy.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Chains are going to miss. And actually the Tether also with a flash in with the second R. Should be able to do it here, as they had to expend a lot more than they actually wanted to, but they got the job done in the end.
So they end up killing Summit, and he's really the final boss in SANDBOX in most cases. And now with him going down, another lethality item completed. Edge of Night.
He's really scared of the Ezreal, you know? But take a look at the right side. Look at how effective the Kha'Zix is in this game.
He's doing really good.
Tom
Now,
Kent's like zoning him out of the jungle.
I'm not one for result-based analysis by any means,
well,
but Kha'Zix, he was set up for failure from the draft.
yeah.
It was going to be so difficult for him to do anything. There's a reason that this champion isn't picked anymore. But sometimes Korea, as a region, interestingly enough, they go through these phases where bad champions end up starting getting picked again because the players get bored. And rather than try to innovate with new picks or look at other regions or try to think to themselves, well, what could actually be good here? They end up defaulting backwards and regressing. And we've seen this several times, even with Gnar earlier on in the year.
Yeah.
As in the replay here, and there's really just nothing for SANDBOX to do. They can't really deal damage to KingZone. They cannot take a straight up fight. Summit, you have to wonder why he's trying to get the mid-tier 1 turret this late in the game, as if a couple hundred gold is somehow going to change things.
Looks like frustration, honestly.
Right.
You know, he's like, come on, guys, let's do something. They're backing. Let's try to chip away. I'm Jace. I can do this. But as you mentioned, it was just the wrong call in that game state. As take a look at the items on the side of KingZone. Lots of Ninja Tabby. Deft decided he didn't need it. Actually, just totally whiffed his True Shot Barrage, as Olaf does not take damage from physical damage anymore. As, well, that was a little bit of a weird combo, as now we get the knockup on a Deft. He's going to bait himself into it. Not beating anyone this time around. Tom Kent's not able to get into range, as a bit of a whoopsie. And now SANDBOX are on the push.
All right, that was exactly what SANDBOX needed at this point in the game. Now, will they go for some sort of a desperation Baron attempt, trying to use the time where Deft is dead? TusiN recalls. Curious if he's just going to actually wait around for Deft because he has the Abyssal Voyage. Doesn't look like it. He's running right back down mid lane. Thomas is getting his exercise in. Look at him. Look at that waddle.
Hey, man. You know?
It reminds me of Wario.
Yeah, kind of. It's very similar. But, you know, no shame if you're overweight and you're that guy that's out at 7 a.m. and you're getting some exercise in. This is, you know, you got to take some of a look-see at Thomas Kent. Take some inspiration from the catfish in League of Legends. You, too, can shave off a couple of pounds, as Tom Kent has done in recent times. I mean, it's obvious. Just take a look at his, you know, his new skins. He's looking great.
I mean, he's been everywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Guy's all over the map. He's chasing down the bugs in the jungle. He's doing good things.
All right. Well, still about a 5,000 gold lead here in this game. Mountain Dragon coming up in 2 minutes. KingZone could just wait for that to make the Baron that much easier. The sheer disrespect out of Naehyun and Deft with their boot choices. Ionian boots and Sork Pen boots, respectively. as it does look like Kingzone probably is just going to be content to wait for the mountain. And we'll see what ends up happening here. Curious what Naehyun is going for with his build direction. An Oblivion Orb wouldn't be awful, given that there's almost no magic resist on the enemy side, and that would grant LeBlanc essentially true damage against several certain targets.
Well, Joker, it was nice seeing you on the Rift. Now you have to go back home. As Summit, once again, is kind of in an awkward spot, and we have Abyssal Voyage coming in with Deft, and he's going to die once again. Really got to question these choices. Honestly, it just looks like frustration once again. Way too far down the lane, as they had pretty much zero vision. And with the Tom Kents in the game, you always got to be careful about those rotations.
Well, at this point, 50 seconds until the mountain. Any pick-off that happens for Kingzone is ultimately just luxurious. They don't really need more item advantage or anything to stay ahead at this current point in time. Bloodthirster now also completed for Deft. That's just going to make it even more obnoxious to try to bring him down, as the Ezreal is the most problematic champion for the SANDBOX team comp. What is Joker doing?
Well, he's going to live. We have two-shot barrage in a second. Here we go, trying to snipe him out. Not going to hit. Joker just fine, but shouldn't have been there in the first place. As now Ghost is in the middle of nowhere here, trying to get tethered down, but actually Rascal in a bit of trouble, taking damage as the Olaf, but he's just frontlining now for Kingzone, as SANDBOX in the middle of the map, as that was just the clone. Looked like big numbers, but it's only Summit left on the Rift here. Ghost had to go for a back, as Kingzone just looking to stack up those objectives.
I was looking at the mini-map, and then I looked back and I thought that was really Naehyun. I was like, oh no.
Oh, not again. Well, Ghost, you don't have Featherstorm this time. I really don't know what to say. This doesn't look like SANDBOX from the regular split. They are just totally mental boom right now. And this is only game one. Kingzone are just running the rift of SANDBOX. This is not the team that we brought into the LCK in spring and summer, but unfortunately, it just looks like they can't stand up to some of the better teams we have here.
And losing in this manner, but also seeing some of the ways that the plays ended up going down, and the type of draft that they chose for game number one, it doesn't make me feel too good going into game number two, because this is definitely a very tilting kind of loss.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder what is really going on here.
All right, Dove trying to go 1v5 versus the world. Can he do it? Aftershock helping him out quite a bit. Joker trying to get the steal, but it's not going to happen. The Baron goes the way of Kingzone. Dove going 1v5. Summit is inting into his death. We had the Kazakhs die on the other side. And this game is turning into just a total disaster of League of Legends, and the bait is real, as Naehyun also going to bait them in here. Not quite able to get out, though, as down will go Joker. We have gone full Fiesta mode, guys. I really don't know what's going on here, as Thomas Kent with the flash.
What is going on?
I don't even know what to say anymore. Summit gonna burst him down. Cuzz is killing minions. And
Cue the music.
you want to, yeah. Just,
where's the circus
yeah.
music?
This is where we really need one of those soundboards where I don't have anything else to say. Can we just press the yakety sax button?
Why did he start the blue?
Oh, what a dodge. We've gone full solo queue right now. This is like what my Plat games look like, honestly. Where it's like the game has totally devolved. Nobody has a brain anymore. We're only going on bestial instinct from this point on. Nobody is using their human brain.
All right, Deft's going to recall first. As the Baron enhanced recall, so he's just going to teleport back in a second. Guardian Angel now completed for him, by the way. As teleport coming in. And SANDBOX are actually starting. Someone needs to ask SANDBOX if they play Mage. They're a big fan of Int.
They're stacking up the Ints in this game.
Oh, Kingzone's actually not just rushing straight to it, which is really surprising.
Deft has 17,000 gold at 33 minutes. Well, they didn't seem to care about the Mountain 3. They're just going to say, sure, you can take that, but you're not going to be attacking any objectives anytime soon, so it doesn't really matter. OnFleek loses his health bar. This is what a Cuzz from behind looks like, where he does literally nothing in the game.
Ah, yes, the classic, the fourth item Black Cleaver Jace.
Yeah.
The Cuzz fourth item.
Oh, the Silas Abyssal Voyage into the backline. We had a charm come down, but it just didn't matter. Look at the Olaf in the backline, just gonna 1v1 onto Ghost. Dove will be going down here. Oh no, he's actually gonna trade it back here, stays alive. And Summit is full health. Clone is gonna be used to distract for quite a while, but the real carries of the team are in here in the base, as Naehyun just wants to delay the back of Summit, and going to be able to do that for quite a while. And 34 minutes of I don't even know what to call it here.
I have no idea what we just witnessed for the last like 12 minutes.
This is the LCK Worlds Gauntlet Qualifier. Welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here to join us for game number 1 as Kingzone just smacked around that punching bag that was SANDBOX in game number 1. And we said it before, that was only game 1, right? Did SKT truly break SANDBOX? What does this mean about Damwon then? You know, because SKT did it to Damwon as well.
This is all just a cruel ploy for Kingzone to hero run the gauntlet. It's exactly
what feels
this
that
is.
way, you know? Kingzone was one of the only teams not to get boomed by SKT.
Deft is never amused.
He looks like a villain in this shot.
Deft would be a Sith in Star Wars. He's never happy, it seems.
Yeah. Kind of looks like Anakin right before he goes into that room full of children, you know?
It's a very
like,
Anakin vibe.
It's kind of gone off the deep end. He looks
In
really
episode 3.
pissed.
Yeah. He looks angry.
Not only in person, but in the game. He picks the Ezreal, first pick, by the way, which, you know, made sense for the comp they were going for, but it almost felt like at the same time he was like, Coach, give me Ezreal. I want to go home fast. F this gauntlet. We are running it all.
Probably the best Ezreal in the world.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's probably the best Ezreal, and when he gets it, he just makes it look so different from other people that try to play it. Plays it in such an aggressive fashion. Very.
Look at this graph. What the hell? What is going on?
All right. Well. Wow. He.
I think he
came really close.
He almost did more damage. Well. Yeah.
NA math. Go.
He is 10K below the enemy team. Well, it's like 11K. Maybe 12, okay?
What?
But, you know, in NA math, we just have
I thought you
ranges
meant his
because
team.
we don't have... No, not his team, the enemy team. I think he did more damage than his team, probably. But the enemy team was 2 16.7s, and then a 9-point-something, an 8-point-something, and a 2.
Hurt yourself.
Again, we just have ranges for NA math.
All right,
we don't land on
let's
specific
see
numbers.
if SANDBOX can bounce back in game number 2, because that's really going to be telling.
Absolutely. All eyes are on SANDBOX. Kingzone come out. They look pristine once again. Well, not pristine. We're not going to give them that. But they look good, whereas SANDBOX have to prove us something after the break.
이제 좀 올라가는 거 같아. 여기 뒤에.
여기 뒤에부터 봐줘. 뒤에부터 봐야 돼.
뒤에.
여기 뒤에부터. 나 오히려 앞에 막을게.
앞에 막았어. 이겼어. 부산 빼도 돼.
잡았어.
파일럿 보자. 할수 없어.
맞아. 플래시 슈 가능?
아니야. 받았다.
잡았다.
나이스. 이거 빼라. 뒤쪽 빼라 그냥. 뒤에 빼도 끝내. 뒤에 빼도 끝내.
가자 우리.
이거
던졌네.
이거 조금만 더 소통만 좀 더 잘해보자 이거. 소통 잘하면 이겼다.
집 끊었어, 데이트.
못 낼게. 솔직히 소통의 문제 아니었어요. 제가 판단. 그냥 이제
그냥 내가 던져.
레전드였어요 그냥.
한컵 날 줄 알았는데 뭔데. 다 죽여.
죽여버려. 나이스.
그리고